Part 1. Hello, folks. My name is Mick, and this is a word from the shadows. Today's date is Wednesday, April the 12th, 2023. The topic that we're going to cover today is the New York State prison system, which is a system that I have a lot of experience with. Rikers Island and the prison system upstate, and how that compares to the Federal Bureau of Prisons. The only similarity is you're in a cell. Everything else about those two systems is like oil and water or day and night. It's a completely different system. First of all, I want to shout out YouTube. I don't know if you got Golden Boys or whatever you got going on, and I'm not really a hater. I want to see everyone do good. But I know you haven't been promoting my videos, man. What, am I too real for you? Okay? Because I know if you was promoting my videos and making them available for search and flashing them across the home screens of people's TVs and personal device, people will be clicking on my channel. Alright? So, hey, you know what, man? If you people don't want to give me a shot at YouTube, hey, y'all can kiss my ass too, with all due respect. Because I produce quality, informative content that tens of thousands of people would watch if you would promote. So I'm just giving you a G check, again, with all due respect. So, back to the prison systems, the two systems, the state system versus the federal system. Well, a good way to think about it is junior college versus graduate degree programs, PhDs, that compared to junior college, trying to figure out the right chemical components to put in the mop water you're fixing to use to mop this hallway in this huge building where the people with graduate degrees run the world. Again, this is not really about disrespect. This is about truth. Now, in the New York State prison system, let's say you get arrested in New York City. New York City consists of 5 counties. New York County, Bronx County, Kings County, which is Brooklyn, and Queens County, and Richmond County, which is Staten Island. If you get arrested in any of those 5 counties, and after your arraignment, if the judge sets bail, or if he remands you, and if he sets bail, remand means you get held in custody. There is no bail. And if he gives you a bail and you can't make it, okay, you're going to, 9 times out of 10, end up on Rikers Island. Now, you have what they call the boat. It's a big barge, and it sits in the South Bronx. I'm going to imagine that it's still operational. And you have the Tombs in Lower Manhattan, which is right by the criminal court where they took Trump and arraigned him. Now, if you can't make bail, that's where you're going. And there's a high probability, over a 90% probability, you're going to go to Rikers Island. So now, the breakdown of Rikers Island. Rikers Island has over 10 individual jails on it. Yeah. You got Rosie M. Singer, which is the female jail. And then you have C95, C76, C74, OBCC, the Beacon, HDM, NIC. And did I leave one out? There's so many. It's possible I did. There's about, any given time, there's about 10 approximate individual jails on Rikers Island. And there's a huge street in the middle of Rikers Island. It's called Hazen Street. And these school buses go up and down to ferry visitors and staff back and forth in between all these different jails. There's obviously also a perimeter road that goes around the jail itself, around the island. There's one bridge in and one bridge out. Okay, the bridge in comes from East Elmhurst, Queens, and it actually goes right by LaGuardia Airport. So when you're going into Rikers Island, right before you get to the bridge, there's two ways they can take you, but most of the time they're going to go right down the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway, and they're going to take a little exit that when you exit, on one side you got like nice brownstones almost, and on the other side you got a big wall, and behind that wall is LaGuardia Airport. I say about a 40-foot concrete wall. I guess it's a privacy noise reduction wall of some kind. And you're going to go really about a quarter of a mile, half a mile, and you're going to be at the entrance for the bridge of Rikers Island. Okay, it's got a parking lot by it, and it's got a big sign that says, New York State calls their system the New York State Department of Correctional Services. New York City calls their system the Corrections Department, City of New York. All right, kind of a weird variation, right? Flip mode, so to speak. So, now you're on your way to Rikers Island. Where are you going to go? How's this going to work? Okay, well, let's say in arraignment, the prosecutor says, hey, we'll offer this guy 20 days in jail. Anything under a year. You can actually do what they call 2 bullets running wild. And that means you get a year sentence, like you get a felony. And they decide to give you the felony charge, but they have a law that allows them to give you a misdemeanor. They call it a paper felony. So you get the felony charge, but you do misdemeanor time. And misdemeanor time is a year or less. So you could do up to 2 of these bullets, 2-year consecutive sentences, a consecutive sentence year to year. And you can do that on C-76. The C-76 is the sentence building. And when you get to that building, I think things have changed now. It's been quite some time since I was there. But I did about a little over 2 years, maybe 2.5 years on Rikers Island, going through my process. Because when I got arrested, the state wanted a piece of me and the feds wanted a piece of me. So, I go through Rikers, I go through all this drama, chaos, mayhem, and the feds, they're doing their thing with me at the same time. And so I end up with 10 years in federal prison after I do the New York State prison sentence. So, Rikers Island. So now let's say you're just what is referred to as a pretrial detainee. You're either remanded or you got a bail you can't make. So you're on Rikers Island. If you're a female, you're going to Rosie M. Singer, and that is the name of the jail that is a female housing unit. It's the only one, and it's a huge building. I'm imagining it probably holds 2,500, 3,000 female offenders, probably at its max. Now I don't know how often it's at its max. Maybe it's only at half capacity, 3/4 capacity for all I know. But that's where your destination would be. You have OBCC and the Beacon. They're the high-risers on Rikers. One has red trimming and one has blue trimming. And they're about 5, 6, 7 stories tall. You know, you can see they got some height on them. Then you got C-95. If you're a pretrial detainee, and you're also a substance abuser, heroin or a like product or any other, substances that you need detoxification from, alcohol, etc., so on, you're going to go to C-95, and that's where all the detoxification, methadone maintenance programs and whatnot is located. Now you can also get that same thing if you're in C-76 because you're a sentence inmate, so you're not going up north or whatever. You're not going into the New York State prison system to go do 20, 30, 40, 6 months. Lil Wayne got a year. He did it on Rikers. You do 9 months on a year sentence. So you could end up, now let's say you're just a regular everyday pretrial detainee. Okay? You don't need detoxing. You're fighting a felony case or a misdemeanor case that you have not pled guilty to or you have not been found guilty of committing. You would be in a pretrial detention. Now, all the other buildings, that's where they send those guys. Like, you have a building, if I'm not mistaken, it's C-74. That's the adolescent building. That's where, like, if you're under 17, 18, they send you. It's also called the animal lessons. Anyway, so that's where they would send you, right? Not maybe exclusively, but primarily, well, it used to be, and I would imagine it still is, a pre-trial detention for juvenile offenders. Now, you also have juvenile offenders in C-76 that are in their own dorm or 2 or 3, and they go to chow and everything else with the adult offenders, but they wear khakis, and the adult offenders wear greens. And that's their primary identifier. And you go to the chow hall as a unit, and you kind of come back. So you fill the table in, and the next table fills up. And so you can kind of tell who's who by who's sitting where. So let's say you fight your case. You might be in C-74. They also call that a state ready building. So after you get sentenced, and now you're slated to go into the New York State prison system called up north, you'll probably go to C-74 and wait there anywhere from a week to 2 months until they come and get you to take you up north. And you're going to either go to downstate or Ulster County. One is more maximum orientated and the other is somewhat medium orientated. Ulster is medium orientated and downstate is more maximum orientated. Maximum custody, medium custody. Now, how would I gauge the day-to-day run-ins at Rikers Island? That place is off the chain, all right? Every kind of mayhem, mischief, chaos. Yeah, it is prevalent on Rikers Island. Now, what was my personal experience on Rikers Island? It was definitely eye-opening, all right? Yeah. Now, I didn't, in that 2+ years that I was on Rikers, I mean, I had some incidents, and maybe we'll get into them at some point, but I didn't have excessive incidents. You know, a couple of little scuffles. Now, that is a strange variation between Rikers Island and the New York State prison system as opposed to the federal system. Let's say you're a white guy and you go to Rikers Island. Well, you know, it's predominantly black and Hispanic. Now, when I was coming through, things may have changed. You know, things always are changing. But when I was coming through, you didn't have any white gangs necessarily. Now, you may have had some white guys that maybe were a member of, you know, a predominantly black or Hispanic gang, and that wasn't prevalent either. But, you know, occasionally you would run across one. I met several of them in the course, and I got along pretty good with all of them. Everybody has their own reasons for doing the things they do, you know. There's no such thing as mindless anything. I mean, usually if somebody did something in their mind anyway, they had a good reason for doing it. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have did it. Now, you know, everybody else may look at that and say, wow, that guy's a little out here. But what are out there, but you know, in their mind, they were justified most of the time, I would imagine. Um, so the day-to-day run is it really depends on which facility they place you in. Some facilities, most, feed you in the housing unit, and they'll have what they have called house gang, and they'll get the child when it comes in. They'll pass it out to everybody else, and basically anything that's left over is theirs. And then they'll bless their homies, you know, their people, and you probably get an extra milk or this or that. And next thing, you know, they send when I was going through anyway, they would send a reasonable amount of food to the housing units, but there was a good probability it wouldn't be properly prepared. Breakfast is the one good meal you can kind of count on because see, they don't do a lot of preparation there. It's like cold cereal, milk, a piece of fruit, so they can't really fuck it up. When they start putting ingredients in vats and putting water in it and heating it up, things have a way of going bad pretty quickly. so, uh, so you're gonna, quite often, depending on which housing unit you was in, it was possible to accumulate some fruit and a couple extra milks. Everybody goes to the line if you're cool with the guy, because some housing units may have only 30, 35 inmates in it, and some housing units may have 90 inmates in it. Just depends on what unit they have you in and what housing unit they put you in when you get to that unit. So, I let's I'll bring you up to speed on the court process. So let's say you're in Rikers Island, right, and you got to go to court. Well, they wake you up about 4:30 in the morning, usher you down to the gym. You stay there for an hour to three, and then they start calling names, and they send you over to the receiving room. Then they put you in one cell. Then they call you out of that and strip search you and put you in another cell. Then you wait in that cell, move to another cell. Then you might have to move to another cell. And then eventually the transit will show up, and they'll shackle you and chain you. In New York, everybody's leg gets shackled to another prisoner's leg, and you each have an individual belly chain with the black box. It's standard operating equipment. Everybody gets it. Whereas in the feds, the only time you get the black box is when you're in a known escape risk or somebody they consider a problematic inmate. Unless there's a reason, they don't automatically put the black box on. But you will see several people with the black box on when you get on those big transport 747s or 757s or whatever they're using. It's big enough to have a couple hundred people, 150 people on it. But I diverse. Rikers Island versus the federal. Yeah, and then when they get you to court, okay, they're gonna take you, and depending on what county you're going to, because the Bronx is actually a part of the Bronx County. Okay, I mean, Rikers Island is a part of the Bronx County. If you get in trouble on Rikers Island or something happens and they decide to try you for a new crime or whatever, give you a new indictment, something happens over there, it does, and people do occasionally get charged. They're going to take you to Bronx County Court. But a lot of people think it's a part of Queens because that's where the bridge that connects Rikers Island to Rikers Island in the mainland is in East Amherst, New York. So when you get to the court, you're going to get in. Then you're going to go in a whole bunch of cells. Then they're going to call names, and one group goes one way, and other groups goes another way. It's not just one courtroom. They might be operating 4 or 5 courtrooms every day, just arraigning people and hearing people's cases. This is like Grand Central Station, really. But everybody's got. Well, when they end up putting you in the holding cells, they take all their equipment off. You're not unless you're a high risk inmate. They do keep those probably handcuffed, probably in a single cell, I would imagine. But everybody else is going to go in bullpens. You might be in the bullpens with 2 or 3 guys, but it's much more likely, especially in the morning time, before they start having to go backs, that start happening at about 1:30, 2 o'clock. Transit will show up and take back whoever's finished with their case. And if not, you stay till the next go back. And like the last go back would be, 10 o'clock at night, 9:30 at night, because some people get held in court all day. You know, they got cases going on. They're going to trial, whatever's going on with it. So, you know, you could be waiting literally all day in bullpens, and they got seating maybe for 20, 30 people at the most, and they might have 30, 40, 50 guys in that bullpen, overcrowded, standing room only. But within the first 3 or 4 hours, they'll start calling names. And as you see the judge, you'll come back to that bullpen. You'll stay there for 5 minutes to 5 hours, waiting for transit to come back. And they might move you to another bullpen, or they might take you downstairs where, you know, transit's, you know, rallying everybody, getting them there, so when they come, they ain't got to go from floor to floor getting people. They're all downstairs, like in the out section of intake. All right. So then you'll get back on the bus after I'll put all the hardware back on. Now you've been in court standing in chaos, mayhem, filth, disgust, people angry, fights. I've seen a lot of wild stuff in the bullpens in the New York City courts and Rikers Island and etc. It was definitely a wild ride. So now you're going to get through with all that. Transit's going to come and get you back at the court. And if you get arrested in Manhattan, you go to Manhattan, Bronx, Queens. All of them have their own courts. Because remember, they're all their own county. So each of those counties have their own court. It's not like one court for the whole county. You get arrested in the Bronx, you go back to Bronx County Court. Staten Island, you go back to Staten Island County Court. Queens, Kings County, which is Brooklyn, and New York County, which is Manhattan. So whichever borough you get arrested in, transit is going all those directions. Again, it's like Grand Central Station, but everybody's got a little extra hardware on, right? So you're going to go back to the island, depending on when you get there. Maybe 2:30, 3 o'clock, first go back. I've been on either side. Got back real quick, which I was grateful for. And because, I mean, it's very, very stressful going to court in a city like New York. It's a very stressful situation. Now, I don't know. For all I know, they could be do virtual court now. But I doubt it, because you got all those transit workers and they're unionized. So, yeah, they're probably going to try their best to keep their job. So I would say, if I was a betting man, that transit is still up and working hard, and they may do some virtual appearances. So now you're going to get back to the island. Again, it could be anywhere between 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or it could be. I've seen people come back to the unit at 11, 12 o'clock at night, because you're going to get back to the building, whatever facility they have you housed in on Rikers Island. Then you're going to go in with a guy. Every time they transit you from court, upstate, in between facilities, everybody's going to be shackled to another prisoner, and everybody's going to have the belly chain on in the black box. I'm going to enjoy an adult carcinogenic, because, see, a free man can do things like this. If you don't smoke, it's not my intention to offend you, but remember, I'm in my living room and you're in your living room, so you know you don't really have to inhale it. You're going to go back in the building on Rikers Island, okay? Then they're going to take all the belly chains off of you. They're going to come. That's going to take anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes, for them to go from the beginning of the line, because they may be 40 people coming back from court, or 50 people, or 25 people. The bus is very, but I've seen it filled to max capacity, and I've seen it filled 20% of the way, so it varies. But however many people they got to go through to get everybody unshackled and chained, and this is a process you have to deal with 2 or 3 times in the morning also. You stand there, you have to get unchained and shackled. Then they shuffle everybody inside the bullpens. Most of the time they'll lock it. Sometimes they'll leave the doors open if they're going to start processing you in right away. Then you get strip searched in and out again, okay, when you come back in the facility. And then you're going to have to go through 3, 4, 5, 6 bullpens before they call your name and escort you back to your unit. It is an all-day process. and it's something that I would imagine encourages a lot of people to plead guilty, so they don't have to deal with it. So you can just get 20 days, 30 days, 45 days. People who may not be guilty, but because they're poor, they can't afford to be able to get caught up in that system. They just say, "Hey, I'll go ahead on it because if I plead guilty, I could probably get 30 days. If I go back and forth to court, this could last months." And because they're too poor to make bail, they're not violent offenders, you know. But that's just, you know, one form of the injustice that comes with that. So, you go back to your housing unit. Hopefully somebody saved you something to eat. Or hopefully you got commissary and you got homeboys to make sure that it's there when you get back. I've seen it go both ways. Now, when I was going through, like I briefly touched on prior, when I was going through Rikers Island and whatnot, I really didn't have an excessive amount of problems, other than just the day-to-day struggle that everybody's got to endure in there. And in the summertime, it's smoking hot. They got fans. There's a few places that have AC, like medical units and maybe program units and stuff like that. But most of the jail, I'm going to say 90%, does not have AC. And it's the same thing in the New York State prison. And you get about 3.5, 4 months of smoking hot weather. All right. No, you can. They got fans in the dorms and in the units and whatnot, and you can have a little personal fan, but you're gonna need it. They do operate radiators primarily in the wintertime, and they get smoking hot. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. So as a white guy, when I went into a unit, for the most part, the black and the Hispanic guys never really asked me was I banging, so I didn't have to deal with that level of drama. Again, I'm sure you probably have a few white guys that are in gangs, you know, of whatever variety and flavor nowadays, because things change. When I was coming through, it was a little different, you know, and you didn't necessarily have any white gangs, AB, the Aryan Brotherhood. Now, you would have a few bikers that would get busted occasionally, but that's not a prison gang, you know. Now, what you did have is a bunch of tough-ass white dudes, and not a bunch. Let me rephrase that. They had some white dudes that was well known in the system. They were from whatever hood they were from in the city. You had some. But it's not that kind of environment, really, where you're just going to be singled out and picked on, or you know. And I'm not going to say, you know, all these things could happen, but from a personal aspect, I never really experienced anybody trying to extort me, or, you know, a few dudes try to put the light press on to see how I would respond, but I never had to deal with a lot of issues, allegedly, maybe when I was on Rikers Island and upstate New York system, because in New York State system, you have a lot of chaos and mayhem that happens on a daily. But the way they have their system designed, you can make the best out of your prison sentence. Or you can do a very chaotic, locked in the hole prison sentence. Either or. But they give you incentives to go to school. They give you incentives to take programs. If you was to lose good time, after that, if you say you're sorry and behave yourself and take some programs, it's possible to earn that good time back. As opposed to the federal system. That system is the most ill-designed and managed system there is. And there's really no comparison, because, like, when you get to the highest security of the federal prison system, which are referred to as penitentiaries, there's no more doing your own thing, okay? Now, you can still be your own man in what you believe and how you go about doing things. But the system itself is a completely different system.